Hi everybody, I'm Josh Marsden and I'm the Wellbeing Manager here at La Trobe University. It's called the Better Life Program and our vision is to help our staff be happy, healthy and wise. We have about 7,000 staff here and my role is to keep the healthy staff healthy, identify the staff that have a health risk factor and implement an early intervention strategy, and provide support to those returning from injury or illness to minimise the likelihood of a reoccurrence for them. Basically, we want to put health and wellbeing in surround sound, using all the tools at our disposal to improve the accessibility and health literacy towards positive health choices or behaviours and make those poor decisions just that little bit harder. The Achievement Program has been quite beneficial in our wellbeing strategy design to help identify the strengths and weaknesses and also make improvements and adjustments as we go. So an example of this is we've got our identified priority areas. So identified priority areas are sedentary time, mental health, stress, and engagement. So we've been working towards all of these, but when going through the AP program, we have noticed that we've got a fair bit of work to do in the nutrition diet aspect of things, particularly around the campuses. So that's going to be a big job for 2017. All right, so Peter has asked me to answer a few questions, and the questions are around why the importance of return on investment and what we're doing and how we're tracking it. So I'm just going to go through the questions one by one and answer them as best I can. So bear with me. So the first question, how does La Trobe currently track and progress? How does La Trobe currently track your progress in employee wellbeing? So before I go through the question, it's important to know that we won't be reporting on any key organisational data until about mid-2018, and this is to allow time, firstly, for the wellbeing program to take effect, and also to stabilise a couple of inconsistencies in organisational data, so health and safety data, injury management data, and so forth, that we just had no confidence with coming in. So what we track is short-term, medium term and long term. So short term tracking, we're looking at the demographics and results of each program and also a feedback survey. So every wellbeing initiative is tracked for attendance, gender, work type, area, employment type, and any health risk factors we're tracking. So for example, the health age checks, it's like your height, weight, waist, hip, so forth. This is important to establish if we're getting a good representation of the organisation. So an example of adjusting for this is last year's lunchtime classes run at Bendigo with the goal of reducing sitting time and reducing stress. We had full uptake, so all classes filled up, but only 17% of the people represented were males, when the split of the organisation is more like 60-40. So this year at Bendigo, we're focusing our efforts to try and bring more male participants into the program. So each initiative we offer will also have a feedback survey to find out what staff liked, didn't like, what they'd like to see more of, and any other comments they have. This is really important and a fast way to get good insight into what your staff find valuable, what's working and what isn't working. It also allows you to stay agile. So this can be done for free. I just use SurveyMonkey out of ease. It's really quickly to whip up a survey. You get up to 10 questions. Excuse me. And by keeping them short, you actually get a really good completion rate, and you can adjust each survey for the specific needs you want to find out about. So our completion rate's about 45% across all programs, and again, we never go above the 10 questions, because it's free and it's efficient. An example of how we use the surveys are after the health checks in 2016, we had staff were asked to rank what wellbeing programs, or rank from 1 to 10, what programs would be most benefit to them in value. So of the top 5 ranked programs, we'd already implemented 3 and planned for the other 2 in 2017. So this is just a really good pulse check to see if what your strategies and what your plan is actually in line with what the people want. And this was just comforting for us going forward to know that we're on the right track and we're giving the staff what it is they wanted while still trying to meet our key priority areas. So medium tracking is we look at EAP utilization rate. So we're looking at basically how often the program is utilized, what areas are using the program the most, and what are the common themes for usage. So is it for work-life balance? Is it for personal life? Is it for work conflict? so that we can see what it is we need to target the programs around. We're not trying to bring that usage down to zero. Also, we want to keep the usage basically around the industry average, but we want to change the trend of usage. So right now at La Trobe, the usage is basically for critical incidents. So once somebody is already going down the path of like a critical incident, that's when they start using the EAP, and that's when they're referred to it. So we want to start getting people to use the EAP more like an annual check-in, annual mental health check-in. So try and encourage people once a year just to pick up the phone and call the EAP just so they can see where they're going. To again, make them aware of the program, and also try and catch them early on before it becomes a critical incident. We're also very fortunate to have the Wellbeing Portal. So the Wellbeing Portal started up at the beginning of this year, and we're still in the recruitment drive for this, but we got about 700 La Trobe staff using the portal. It's really good because we can see how many people are logging into the portal, what they're clicking on. It also has an online health risk assessment, so we can identify the top 5 health risks of the organisation, the top 5 interests, and then use that to strategically plan our program going forward. And then long-term tracking. So how do we track our programs long-term? So this is the stuff that's going to have the most weight and basically going to prove the value to the organisation leaders of investing in the wellbeing program. And this takes about 3 to 5 years to get really good bang for your buck on it. But what we're looking for is data from human resources. So we want to see the trend of the absenteeism rate over 3 years. So when you are looking at this, and this will because we're a large organisation, it shouldn't impact it too much. But if you have a small organisation, you will get impacted. Say, for example, if there's a lot of turnover, or you have a flu epidemic and you've only got 20 staff, that's going to be a lot more prevalent than in a staff of 7,000 people. Injury management. So injury management, we work really closely already, and we work closely with our insurer to find out what our claims are, what our costs are, so that then we can be more strategic in the delivery. So what we'll be looking for is a reduction in work cover premiums, the length of each claim, the number of claims, and the average cost per claim. So if the wellbeing program's doing what it's set out to do, is firstly, less people will be going off on claims. We'll be able to turn around the claims a lot quicker because we'll have early programs for people coming back from musculoskeletal injury, for example, in place. And the focus is on getting staff back quicker, and that's a joint effort. So injury management are actually working now on they're calling it a low-cost model, but basically if it's a small injury, the idea is we have a couple of providers around the area that can go through the rehabilitation process without it ever going to a work cover claim. We also need information or trends from health and safety, so a number of incidents, particularly in the psychosocial incidents, mental health, musculoskeletal, and slips, trips and falls. So slips, trips and falls are on there because if the staff are healthy and active, they're less likely to have a slips, trips and falls to begin with. And if they do happen to have a slips, trips and fall, it's less likely to be an injury. So it'd be it wouldn't be flagged as a incident. And also the organisational development teams. The organisational development team do a really good survey every 2 years, or 18 months or 2 years, called the Employee Opinion Survey. And what they're looking for is an improvement in sustainable engagement. And sustainable engagement actually has one component related to well-being. Basically, I think it's called energy in the program, but it basically asks a couple of questions around their well-being. So we want to see an improvement in that in line with the OD's survey. All right, next question. Can you tell in more detail the return on investment evaluation you've been using at La Trobe? All right, so at La Trobe, we're currently in transition period on how we track ROI. For the university, is a bit of a hybrid of the assumptive method until we have enough confidence in our own metrics. Like I said earlier, by 2018, we will be doing a validated ROI measure. For the assumptive method, you can either do it across the health risk factors, so mental health, musculoskeletal injury, cholesterol, etc., and use industry data to calculate your estimated ROI. But we're using the programs-based assumptive method, which calculates each program we run against industry averages. So for example, there's research and evidence on the return on investment for flu vax, so we just run the basic baseline averages across that, EAP usage rates as return on investment numbers and so forth. And then we can actually, excuse me again, we can calculate out for our organisation what the cost would be. And we also use a critical incident or averted critical incident as a return on investment measure as well. So an example of this, if somebody comes to the injury management workshop, the Better Back workshop we offer, and they actually present with a couple of high risk injuries that do need treatment, and we refer them on, we would put them in the referral program, and then that's essentially a musculoskeletal claim that was never lodged because we got them in the early intervention phase, which again, most musculoskeletal injuries, the average at La Trobe is $20,000. Why is this important for your organisation? So why is return on investment important to our organisation? It's extremely important for an organisation this size and with the sort of budgetary constraints. So being able to present to the senior leaders of our workplace is really important, as it shows the value in their investment, first of all. So the university is a large place and it's got lots of departments all looking for extra funding. So to be able to show clearly the quantitative and qualitative benefits of wellbeing for both the person, so personal stories, and the organisation level, so the benefits of organisation performance, is critical to evolve the program. So we need to prove what we're doing actually has value to the workplace, and it's not just a nice to have. So an example of how tracking ROI has proved successful for our wellbeing program was at the end of last year when we presented the wellbeing program outcomes for 2016. So over 2016, it was basically a pilot program for the Better Life, and we had 2,300 staff participate in face-to-face programs, and of those 2,300 essentially healthy staff, we identified 20 staff that were high risk of either mental health or physical injury. We then moved them on to an early intervention program. So just using the assumptive method for that alone, that's about $500,000 in work cover claims that was prevented. So from the success of that business case, and once we put that case up, they actually allowed us to provide us funding to implement the Better Life Wellbeing Portal for 3 years. And again, just because they're starting to see that what we're doing in the wellbeing space is actually adding value to the organisation. Next up is, what do you want to see changes in? We want to see changes in our people, first of all. We want to build a culture of wellbeing where our employees are in the driving seat for the program, and our role is to provide the tools and support for the implementation. So we basically want to get it to the stage where everybody knows that wellbeing is their business, and it's the business to build up the wellbeing of their teams around them. So rather than it all having to come in through the wellbeing program, we want to see team leaders, executives starting to say, hey, we need an action plan of wellbeing for our area. What can the wellbeing team do to help us? From a KPI point of view, and big organisation metrics we'll need, over 3 years we'll need to see behaviour changes around the big 5 modifiable behaviours. So we're talking about reductions in smoking, alcohol consumption, nutrition and physical activity. And this will come from the self-report information on the wellbeing portal, and also we'll be doing biannual health checks for anthropometric measures as well, so waist, BMI, blood pressure, and we couldn't do it this time around, but next time around we'd like to do some blood work as well. We need to see changes in the work cover insurance premium. Basically, when I came on, that was I was told that was my KPI. The trend for the work cover premium has been going up over the last 3 years, and we need to bring that down, and that's what the wellbeing program, linked up with health and safety and injury management, is here to do. And that goes into the following. So the number of work cover claims. So if the wellbeing strategy is successful, there'll be a reduction in both musculoskeletal and mental health claims, hopefully also bullying claims as well, because we got greater team cohesion, better morale, but we will see how that goes. And length of each claim as well. So like I mentioned, I think in the previous question, a healthy population is, if they do go off an injury, are going to come back quicker, and also we'll have better systems in place to support them coming back. EAP trends, mentioned that earlier. So just utilization rates, we want to see the utilization rate steady, because similar to the work cover claims, they've been going up over the last 3 years as well. So we want to get them to come back down just to the industry average. And again, we want to change the way people are using them. So we want them to use it proactively as a health check-in rather than reactively when they're already halfway out the door, so to speak. And HR data and the employee opinion survey. So I answered most of this in the last question. One thing I did want to note is that it's really important to try and pull data across as many areas as you can, because there will be things that happen inside the organization culturally that will actually impact the validity of the data. So say, for example, you go through an organizational change, there's a good chance that the absenteeism data is going to spike. For example, if it's a particularly strong flu season, again, absenteeism data is going to spike. The employee opinion survey could be impacted by things going on inside individual teams rather than the whole organization. So the idea would be to pull as much data from as many areas as you can and then look at the trends across the spectrum. Okay, next question is, what tools and processes are you using to track these changes? I'm pretty fortunate at La Trobe that all the data is gathered from the respective teams, injury management, health and safety, human resources already, and I just need to kind of ask what they want, and I take all the data in from all the wellbeing programs as well. And we've actually got a team here, Pippu, that can run stats on the organisation demographics. So we're very fortunate in the fact that we can pull information from anywhere. But yeah, speak to your human resources people for your demographics, speak to your injury management team for what the claims are, speak to your health and safety team for what incidents and what hazards there are. And when you're looking at all of those areas together, you will actually start to see a pretty good story of what's going on, because the hazard should lead to the high number of hazards should lead to the incidents should lead to what's on the injury management and so forth, and then that impacts the absenteeism. So it all kind of interweaves, so you want to bring them all in together. How often do you collect the data and how do you source it is the next question. Data collection is ongoing, so whenever a wellbeing program is running, no matter what size it is, whether it's for 3 people or 300 people, data is taken from that, and surveys are done unless it's too small and it impacts on the de-identification process. So each quarter we do a SEG report, so Senior Executive Group report, with health and safety and injury management, and that's just on key data around participation rates, satisfaction rates, and so forth. So no big organisational data. Annually we do a full wellbeing report, and I try and get in a little bit better data from HR and OD and do some comparisons. And then, like I said, from 3 years onward, we'll be able to use all the data from injury management, health and safety, OD, and human resources to get a really good picture about what we're doing. And that will be reported annually, but then on demand. So the senior executives might ask for it, and we can pull that pretty quickly just by the way the organisation is set up. Okay, so what's been the impact of presenting the data? For my role, the data has been critical to the success. So, like I said, 2016 was essentially setting up the program and gaining leadership support. So by presenting wellbeing data across the leadership channels, it actually has helped to get better buy-in and support from programs currently running, and just getting the leaders to say yes and sign off on initiatives we want to run. It's just gotten easier every time we go by, because once a program is completed, say for example a program rounds up in Albury-Wodonga for the health age checks, I'll do up a report that'll show the key demographics for that and key outcomes, and also what the staff are saying, because we always like to put in some qualitative and quantitative data, because again, you don't know what your audience is going to be like and what they respond to. And finally, do you have any any advice for businesses wanting to develop this level of evaluation? Yeah, so basically in the setup, speak to your human resources, speak to health and safety, speak to injury management teams, and see what information they're already taking. There's a good chance a lot of the stuff you want is already available for the organization, and it's just working with them to build up an appropriate case. Use validated evidence. So I mentioned that we're using the assumptive measure. Make sure that you're pulling data from people you can trust. So say, for example, your ROI data, you want to go from PwC, your Towers, Willis, Watsons, your Deloitte. They're all doing some good stuff on the return on investment around wellbeing programs. You don't want to be pulling your ROI data from your local Joe's flu vac company where they're basically trying to get your business. So make sure that it is validated, especially because your senior leaders are going to ask the question, where this information come from? How did you come up with that saving of $200,000 for X? And otherwise, survey every program you can. So if you're not able to get that high level data, and like I said, depending on your organization situation, it might take a while to be able to access that to begin with. So just if you survey and you ask strategic questions every time, you can go a very long way with that in developing your strategy. I guess good luck with making your workplaces a better place to work. And again, thanks for your time.